Pokemon Heart and Soul, Episode 8, Lake of Rage. Mason races to the Pokemon Center, worry edged on his face. He bursts into the doors and rushes over to the Nurse Joy, explaining that his Murray appears to be sick. Nurse Joy nods seriously and states that this seems to be happening to all of the Pokemon in Mahogany Town, before taking Mason's Pokemon to see what she can do about them. Mason walks around nervously, hearing people stating that it seems to be related to sound waves. One of the Pokeballs bursts open, and Teddiursa lands on the ground. The Pokemon winces, clearly in pain, but there's also a look Mason has never seen in its eyes. A look of absolute determination. Then, without warning, the small Pokemon bursts into a run, disappearing out of the building. Mason, of course, has no choice but to chase after his much smaller companion. Teddiursa stops outside of an antique store. The little bear Pokemon seems to be in pain and plugs its ears before wandering in. Then it removes one hand from one ear, quickly puts the hand on, and walks to a small corner. Then, with little to no thought, the small Pokemon, with all of its might, slashes at the ground. What gives way to a staircase. Teddiursa points down the staircase. "Ursa," it says in its small voice. The sound waves are coming from down there, Mason guesses. The little teddy bear Pokemon nods. "You sure you're up for a battle?" Mason says, eyeing the darkness without a doubt in his mind that there was definitely going to be a battle. I mean, people and places don't simply emit sound frequencies that harm Pokemon with good intentions, do they? Teddiursa gives a grave nod. And so Mason follows the small Pokemon down. As he goes through the building, he runs into strange men in black that immediately go on the attack. Teddiursa, despite fighting the pain of whatever's going on here, does manage to beat every single Pokemon thrown at them. And then Mason reaches a doorway, and a woman walks in front of him. "What are you doing here?" she hisses. "How dare you interrupt Team Rocket's plan?" And then, with little to no warning, she sends out an Aardvark. Immediately she calls for it to use an iron head. The snake immediately shoots for headbutting Teddiursa in the stomach. Teddiursa slowly gets up, wiping a bit of sweat from its brow. Okay, Teddiursa, use Slash. Nodding, the small Pokemon runs in, delivering a downwards slash on the snake. This unfortunately allows the snake to bite down on Teddiursa before throwing the small Pokemon into the ceiling. Teddiursa's body drops limply. Then slowly the Pokemon gets back up, a purple rash above its nose. And of course, this is when we learn of Teddiursa's ability. You see, when Teddiursa goes in next for an attack, this time a headbutt, is far faster than Arbok, and in one slam of its head, knocks Arbok out, prompting the release of Vileplume. That's right, this little guy's ability is, drumroll please, Guts. And now that it's activated, this little teddy bear is about to go absolutely wild. As it dodges a vine whip, slices through Razor Leaf with Slash, and delivers a mega punch that takes out Vileplume. The red-haired lady frowns, muttering how even with the frequency weakening it, this little teddy bear Pokemon is proving to be quite a nuisance. And then with a statement of, "You better not mess up," she sends out a Haunch Crow. Haunch Crow, for its credit, does deliver a Steel Wing, but unfortunately, the main thing this does is allow Teddiursa to grab it with one arm and slam its fist into the bird Pokemon's stomach over and over until the bird Pokemon faints, prompting the woman to quickly disappear. Teddiursa, Mason says, running up to the Pokemon as it collapses. Yes, Teddiursa was able to get through all three of her Pokemon without so much as a grimace, but Mason can see that took a lot out of it. He pulls out a super potion, and in his other hand, he pulls out an antidote. Teddiursa reacts more negatively to this than Mason would have thought, denying the anti-venom. Mason nods and uses the super potion. And then once the super potion is used up and Teddiursa looks more than ready to throw hands with whatever opponent they encounter next, Mason enters the last room. In this room, there is once again a man who's dressed a bit differently than all of the others. He has purple hair and doesn't seem very nice. Huh. You got here with an unevolved Pokemon. He mutters more to himself than to Mason. Mason gets the vibe that this guy is a bit more of a show-off smarty pants than a plain logic's clever guy. And it turns out he's right, as this guy seems more than content to go on and on about the project. Not very smart in Mason's opinion, as upon the simple prompting of "what are you doing to the Pokemon," he gets a full explanation, way more than most people who are part of a secret organization would have given him, about how the machine behind the purple-haired man is releasing sound frequencies that are forcing Magikarp to evolve and are also harming uninvolved Pokemon. Mason considers this for a moment, as it occurs to him that after Mareep fell ill, he never actually checked on any of his Pokemon, and theoretically, he has 3 different Pokemon who would be able to fight, although one is way under level compared to all of his Pokemon, and one doesn't obey him. Okay then, Mason thinks. He left all of his Pokemon except for Teddiursa with Nurse Joy, so he's just going to have to roll with the normal type. So the battle begins, and out comes a Weezing. Like with all of the previous opponents, Teddiursa is able to make quick work of this Weezing. Interesting, that Pokemon must have the ability Guts, says the strange purple-haired man. He then sends out a Raticate and calls for a Hyper Fang. It occurs to Mason that if this move hits, it's game over. So he calls for, once again, the obvious go-to for this little Pokemon, Slash. And Slash is more than able to negate most of the damage, not to mention getting the little bear close enough for a surprise Mega Punch. And with this, it seems the archers are already down to his last Pokemon, but Teddiursa also seems exhausted. Teddiursa, you're going to need to use rest, Mason calls. The Pokemon nods, and as out comes a Crobat, the teddy bear gives a big yawn and flops onto its stomach. This allows the other Pokemon to get in Poison Jab and a Wing Attack before the teddy bear wakes up. This time, when the bat comes in with a Wing Attack, Teddiursa is able to counter it almost perfectly with a Slash. And then the next time it comes in with a Wing Attack, Mega Punch. And then when it finally changes to Poison Jab, this time Teddiursa grabs the attack. Teddiursa looks back at Mason and their eyes lock. "'Kay," Mason says, "make sure you hold all 4 of its wings down." Nodding, the little Pokemon grabs the other 2 and waits until a purple rash appears. "Okay then, let's finish this. Mega Punch." And just like that, the bat is down for the count. Although this base is under the town, Mason still hears the sound of microphones going off, but he can't hear what they are saying. The purple man looks at a computer behind him and smiles before quickly pulling a USB drive out of it and disappearing. Mason walks up to the machine, taking in some paperwork on the desk. He grabs the paperwork and tells Teddiursa to destroy the machine. Nodding, the small Pokemon takes several mega punches to the machine, promptly ending its function. Okay, so Mason leaves the base and sees people scurrying about in an absolute panic. He immediately makes his way to the Pokemon Center. Teddiursa catches a ride in his backpack, obviously absolutely exhausted after, single-handedly going through half of Team Rocket's organization. Go figure, the little normal type's a bit sleepy. And once at the Pokemon Center and getting his Pokemon back, he learns the reason for all of this havoc. Mahogany Town has been called to retreat and evacuate due to a giant red Gyarados rampaging in the Lake of Rage and making its way to Mahogany Town. Nodding, Mason leaves the building. He takes a look at the people fleeing to the right of him, and he runs with all of his might to the left. Mason spots the Gyarados a bit off in a lake. It is indeed approaching, but it seems to stop as a white-haired man battles it. Gyarados has clearly been given quite a few good hits from this stranger, but with an untamed amount of rage, it slams its tail at them, and the old man is forced to retreat. This gives Mason the perfect opportunity to take the stage. And without a second thought, out comes Politoed. Politoed used Perish Song. Nodding, the frog sings its sad little song. And for all of its good work, it is rewarded with a Hyper Beam. But looking at the Gyarados, Mason can tell that the song had its intended effect. So, out comes Pichu. Pichu is able to manage a Thunder Punch. This leaves the Gyarados raving in pain, and when it comes in with a bite, Pichu, by some luck, is able to dodge and rewards the giant Gyarados' efforts with a Tail Whip. And then the countdown goes, and Gyarados falls. Mason sighs a breath of relief, only for Gyarados to mere seconds later pop back out and slam into Pichu. This takes the little mouse Pokemon out. Mason winces, knowing that Pichu is obviously in a lot of pain after that attack. That was major overkill he only has one Pokemon that has even a chance of standing up to this thing. So out goes Teddiursa. Now Teddiursa is able to stand up to this monster, landing Mega Punch and Slash. However, this Pokemon still is absolutely beyond its point of strength. It has already been through absolutely everything. And so, a Hydro Pump takes it out. One last Pokemon. Come on out, Mareep. Mareep is probably not his strongest now, thanks to Teddiursa being, well, Teddiursa, but Mason's most familiar with this one. And so, when Gyarados slams its tail down, Mason doesn't think twice before ordering a spark. And so, his little sheep from the side of the tail that it jumped to slams its head into Gyarados, sending lightning rippling across it. Gyarados roars with pain before sending a hyper beam. Calling for Thunderbolt, Mason tells Mareep to not put its heart into this, as it has no chance of winning, but to rather use this to slow down the attack for a little bit, buying it time to dodge to the side. With a nod, Mareep sends out the strongest but quickest Thunderbolt it can and promptly dodges the attack. And now Mason is able to call for Flaffy to use Thunder Punch, which it lands. Mason feels absolutely certain that this beast is about to go down, especially as paralysis ripples across it. But that's the problem, isn't it? He already knocked this Pokemon out with Perish Song. It will just get back up. And so, with that, Mason has one choice. Ding! Mason stares at the Pokeball, knowing that he had most possibly just made the worst mistake of his life. There's no way he would ever be able to train this Pokemon. But at least Mahogany Town was safe. And maybe he could release it somewhere. No, its rage might cause it to attack another human city. Mason frowns as the Pokeball disappears, signaling the Gyarados' movement to his box. What do I do now? He wonders as Flaffy walks over to him, giving a small flaff. And that's where we'll leave things for today. I hope you guys enjoyed Episode 8, Lake of Rage, Pokemon Heart and Soul. Till next time.